If I was thinking of like how to describe this, this is like Six of Crows meets Throne of Glass. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be doing a full review on the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. So yeah, let's get into it. So for the series in total, I would say it was a 4.5 stars, but I did rate each book individually. So Mistborn, the first book, I gave a 4, and I'll come into more detail shortly. The second book, The Well of Ascension, has been my favourite book of the year. It's been the only book I've given 5 stars. I think that speaks for itself. If I could sell my soul to read this book again for the first time, you bet your ass I would. Yeah, so 5 stars for The Well of Ascension, and then The Hero of Ages I gave 4.5 stars. So collectively speaking, I'm saying 4.5 is the average here because that is definitely what the maths would be. So yeah, I just want to say, if you haven't read it already, you're missing out because it is amazing. I feel like I was missing out, but at least I'm like on the train now. So this is a series that my friend recommended to me a while ago, and I've just put it off, but he said it was so good, and I was like, after having to DNF a few books at the start of March, I was like, yeah, I just want something I can get my teeth into, like something really fantasy. So I was like, let's give Mistborn a go, and his recommendation was so good, so thank you Harry for that recommendation. To make the experience of reading this series a bit more fun, I kind of buddy read it with someone, one of my friends, I say friends, from my bookstagram account. So me and him kind of buddy read it together, although he's a faster reader than I am, so he read it before I did, like he finished it first, but it's okay, it's not a race, you know, we all go at our own speed. So yeah, I've made notes on each book because I feel like my thoughts will just get away from themselves. So yeah, let's go on to Mistborn. The premise of this book is that they've got a tyrant, he's called the Lord Ruler, and then you've got 2 kind of classes of people, the elites and then the scars. Our main character, our main girl Vin, she's a scar street urchin, so she's like one of the poor people, but her character kind of gives Selena in the first Throne of Glass book. So I would compare Mistborn to like Six of Crows meets Throne of Glass, because Vin is very much like Selena in that those first 2 Throne of Glass books, like her character development and all that, but then also Six of Crows, so in this there's like a little rebellion that wants to overthrow the Lord Ruler, and just the way they go about the mission, how they plan it all out, is very much like Kaz and his crew in Six of Crows. So that's where I'd say like Mistborn is like Throne of Glass meets Six of Crows. The characters in this book are so good, and the magic system's also really cool as well. So the magic system I'm going to put the book down now because I don't need to keep holding it. The way the magic system works is that it's the elite people that have the power, and then the scars generally don't. It's like a rare few who have power if you're a scar, but our main character Vin is one of those rare few. I should say now there will be spoilers probably for the series going ahead, so if you've not read them, then turn away now. I've already just given you a spoiler, so yeah, but that's kind of on the blurb anyway. So Vin actually has powers, and then the way the magic works is that you can either have the full realm of power, like the full scope of power, or you can just have one. So the power works on metal, so if you ingest a metal, iron for example, it will enhance your eyesight, and then if you're able to ingest all the metals and draw power from all of them, then you're called Mistborn, hence the title. So there's like 6 metals or something, so if you can use all 6 metals, you're called Mistborn, or if you can only use one, then you're called a Misting. So the way the power works is you can either have every power or you can only have one. So yeah, and then each metal gives you like a different kind of power, but I really enjoy the concept of the power system in Mistborn. However, it is confusing, so even by the end of book 3 I found it a little bit, I still didn't fully understand it, but you know, you read past what you don't quite get. But yeah, so Mistborn is really cool, the magic system's really cool, the main girl is really cool. She's like a kind of like, not a weak character to begin with, but I'm gonna say weak. She's a bit weak, and then like she grows into herself, like as she like surrounds herself with like people who want to like push her to do better or like take control of her life. So then some of the other characters we get introduced to is like the crew that helps plan the rebellion. So Calcier is almost Vin's mentor. He is another Mistborn from the scars, from like the scar population, and he's like the leader of the crew. Like he gives Kaz Brecker energy, but yeah, at the end of Mistborn, Calcier gets killed, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, surely not, like isn't he kind of one of the main characters? Like surely Brandon isn't going to do that to us. But yeah, Calcier dies, and then they overthrow the Lord Ruler, and the pacing of the series is weird. So I thought the whole series would be about trying to overthrow him, but it's not. He gets like their tyrant king gets killed at the end of book 1, so I thought it was a bit weird, but also it was really good. As with any fantasy, it's a bit slow to begin with, so it took me at least 150 pages to get into it properly. But yeah, Mistborn was a 4. I didn't see that ending happening in book 1, but the characters are really cool, so you kind of get a glimpse into the characters in Mistborn. And then that brings me on to book 2, so you get a glimpse of the characters in Mistborn, but then in the Well of Ascension you get a lot more like depth from the characters. So I should have said in Mistborn, Vin kind of infiltrates high society to like be a spy on like them, so that can help with the rebellion. And there she meets Ellen Venture, the love interest of this series. Ellen Venture, if you were a real person, I would marry you straight away. I've said it. He starts as a scholar, so like their first meet cute, Vin's sitting at a table and he comes and sits down by her, and he just starts reading his book. Why can't that happen in real life? So yeah, that's what happens kind of in book 1. Vin meets Ellen, but they're from different like forbidden romance. He's from one of the like houses of the elites, and then obviously she's a peasant, so it's bound to be like doomed. So yeah, at the end of book 1, the Lord Ruler is overthrown, kind of like everything goes up into chaos. Calcia dies, rip. And then kind of the Well of Ascension focuses on like how the crew will cope in Calcia's absence, and then also like what they're going to do with the world now that the Lord Ruler has gone. So the kind of backdrop of this whole series is that there was a darkness, a deepness, or like some power that the Lord Ruler back thousands of years ago tried to get rid of, but like he wasn't successful. And then the Well of Ascension is like a mythical well of power that's meant to help banish this, like they call it the deepness, banish this deepness. This book is almost about like continuing on the Lord Ruler's legacy, in that they want to make the world a better place. So like the world they live in is like really like uninhabitable, like the sun's red, the grass is brown, like they don't know, the grass is never green, they've never seen a flower before, like it's a pretty dismal place to live. So the Well of Ascension focuses on like what the world is going to be like in his absence, like what is the class system, like who takes power, all of those kind of things, and then also like trying to fight this magic. So Well of Ascension, we get introduced to Zane, who's another Mistborn, and then you think he might be a bit of a love interest for Vin, but like also to caveat that he's Ellen's half brother, so it's giving Vampire Diaries, Stefan and Damon, or I don't know, any other series where there's 2 brothers vying after the same girl. But yeah, in the end, Zane is a little bit mad, so he hears voices, which you later figure out, you kind of make the connection in book 3 that those voices are actually the power that ends up taking over in book 3. So I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, Zane comes into it. Ellen actually ends up being emperor, but then he gets ousted by the parliament that he set up because he wants a fair rule. So he wants there to be voices in the government for the elite people and for the poor people, because, you know, my man Ellen is all about, you know, equality. So Ellen gets ousted, and then there's like loads of different power plays for the throne or whatever, but like they're not interesting, but like they're like not like, essentially by the end of the book Ellen comes back into power because he deserved it, after Vin kind of gets the throne back for him. So this whole book just left me reeling. There's like, I would say one of the main parts is that there's a traitor within the group. So there's these characters called Candra, and they're basically like, they can take on the body of whoever they eat, so almost like a shapeshifter. And we find out early on in the book that someone has been like, that a Candra has taken over someone in the close circles group. Then like you have to try and figure out who the Candra now is, like who the traitor is. And Vin has her own Candra anyway that Calcia gave her at the end of book 1. So we already know that there is a Candra within the circle, but it's one that we know about. And then at the end of the book, we actually find out the Candra that's meant to be Vin's Candra ate her actual Candra and ended up being the spy. So that was a bit of a surprise. It was like so obvious, like that basically one Candra has usurped another Candra, and then it ended up being him. But I actually like Tensoon. So Tensoon was the spy, the betrayer at the end of this book, and Tenzin is such a guy, he's such a lad, he is just justice for Tenzin. Like, I know he was a spy and a traitor, and he was Zayn's spy as well, so like just to add that, Zayn is a little bitch. So yeah, that was like the kind of spoiler at the end, that was the spy, and I didn't guess it. I was adamant that it was going to be like annoying, like Ellen got killed by a Kandra, or Tyndall, kind of like Ellen's advisor in it, and when he kind of steps up into power. Yeah, so that was crazy. And then at the end, Vin's like starts to hear the power, so she thinks she's the hero of ages. Like, there's like prophecies talking of who the hero is and like how they're going to stop this deepness from like destroying their world. Vin starts to hear the pulses of power that the Lord Ruler heard before he stepped up to be emperor. So Vin follows these pulses, she goes to the Well of Ascension, and then there's this like mist figure who follows her throughout the book and who follows Ellen throughout the book. They get to the Well of Ascension, and then this mist figure stabs Ellen in the gut. So Ellen's lying on the floor dying. Vin's about to take the Well of Ascension, the power, into herself, because the idea of the prophecy is that if you take the power into yourself, you release it and you save the world. That's how the prophecy has been told to them. That is what everyone in the world believes. So Vin has a choice then. Ellen's dying on the floor. She can either release the Well of Ascension, release the power out into their world and save the world, or she can keep it within herself and save Ellen. Now, I might be selfish, but if it was me making that choice, I'd be saving my boyfriend, but Vin's a better lady than I am. So Vin releases the power, and then it all goes to shit, basically. Excuse the French. The way the prophecy has worked, when the Well of Ascension is released into the world, it doesn't actually save the world. It releases the like evil villain that's trapped within the Well of Ascension. So we find out that he's called Ruin. That's what we find out in book 3. So she doesn't actually save the world by releasing the power and thinking she's being selfless. She releases Ruin into the world, which is like kind of where book 2 ends. So it ends with basically like the world is ending. And then thankfully Ellen is saved by this piece of metal that the Lord Ruler kept in this chamber with the Well of Ascension. This mist figure, who we find out is actually like Ruin's opposite, tells Vin to feed Ellen the piece of metal, and then he eats the metal and he lives. Thank God. For these whole last 200 pages, I was on the edge of my seat looking out the window. I was in despair. Like, I am a pretty like inexpressive person. Like, I don't really give much away. Like, when I read books, I just read the book, like nothing, I have no expression. But with the Well of Ascension, I can tell you I was like swearing out loud, literally like, if Ellen dies, I can't believe she's released Ruin. Like, it was all kicking off. So yeah, and so yeah, we've ended book 2 with like absolute chaos, and then book 3 starts with finding out that Ellen is now a Mistborn. Some people might not like that, but I am, you can hate me for saying it, I'm not, you know, I think, you know, equal rights to everyone, but I like it when the man's a bit more dominant. So when Ellen becomes Mistborn, he doesn't just become Mistborn, he becomes like a really dominant, you know, emperor. Like, he really steps into himself, he takes control, and I'm all about that in a man. Yeah, so Ellen steps up from like Ellen to like Ellen. So Ellen has leveled up. We find out that Ruin is the bad guy. So a whole few books, like, the Lord Emperor did what he did to stop the deepness, which, to be honest, by the end of book 3, I'm not even sure what the deepness is. I've asked my friend, he thinks that it was just Ruin. Like, I'm not really sure. So that's the only question mark Brandon Sanderson leaves us with. So yeah, Ruin is the bad guy in this book, capital R. As the book goes on, you find out that like he can manipulate things. So the prophecies that were spoken about how like releasing the power in the Well of Ascension would like save the world, like he's manipulated that. He's manipulated it so that like he got to be released. Like, every time that it was written down or spoken about, he changed people's words, he changed what was written on paper, all in favour of releasing himself. Whereas obviously, like, when the prophecies were originally written, it was to say that he was trapped in there, so do not release the Well of Ascension. So Ruin's a little manipulator. And then, as with any power, when there's evil, there's good. We learn about preservation, so that's the power that trapped Ruin to begin with, but like in trapping Ruin, preservation kind of like lost their power. So preservation is weak, which is why the world is kind of like ending and like it's not in a good place. It kind of just all kicks off at the end of this book. Like all the tension in the first 2 books kind of comes to a head in this one. There's like a few battles where like Ellen's trying to conquer different parts of their country because he thinks it's better to have it all in one place. Vin's trying to grapple with her guilt for releasing Ruin, but also like trying to like fight him, and yeah, it just all kind of kicks off. At the end of this book, it's absolutely brutal. So the whole premise of the 3 books is to find out who the hero is. So Vin has always thought she's the hero. She released the Well of Ascension, but that's because Ruin manipulated all the little facts to point to Vin. In this book, you find out there's like another power system to it. It's called hemalurgy. I've definitely not pronounced that right, which is essentially like you stab someone with like a type of metal and it gives them powers taken from someone else. So like this power is Ruin's power. So like Vin has an earring that she wears in book 1 that her mum gave her, and like I said to my friend as soon as I finished book 1, I was like, her earring's going to be significant somehow. And you find out in book 3 that her earring was basically like Ruin's way of manipulating her. So like in his hemalurgy power or whatever, by Vin always wearing that earring, he's got a hold over her. So like he is controlling Vin and like her actions and that, so like she can never defeat him while she has that earring in. And then a different character figures this out just towards the end, so he pulls out Vin's earring. I thought that the book would end with Vin becoming like the reincarnated preservation to kill Ruin, or to have, you got to have balance for the world to exist, so like she would become that balance and Ellen would be emperor and life would just be happy. But that is not how the book ends. I've got to say, Brandon Sanderson just knows how to do it. Do you know when like you read a book and it's like, oh, all the characters live at the end of the book, and it's like, yeah, I'm happy that all the characters are alive. However, that's not how it would go in like real battles or like in war. Like people don't survive war, people don't survive battles. So as much as it breaks my heart with how Brandon Sanderson ended the series, like he knows the like consequence of fighting. Spoiler alert again for those, you know, turn away now because I'm literally telling you how it ends. So Vin does take on the power, and as she's becoming like the reincarnated preservation, I was just like, yeah, that's fine. Ellen's gonna like be emperor, he's gonna miss her, but she's gonna be there with him. So this is all happening like simultaneously. So Vin takes on like this power and she becomes like a god in order to kill Ruin. There's a battle happening, it's like the last battle, like Ellen's soldiers and him are outnumbered by like the evil people that Ruin controls. So this is all happening. Ellen is the last man standing in this fight. Vin's watching over him, and I was like, right, she's going to give him some kind of power to win, like he's going to win, she's going to make sure he wins. No, the paragraph ends and then Ellen's on his knees fighting his last fight, and then he gets beheaded. I shit you not, he gets beheaded. And I just had to take a moment and be like, that's just so brutal. Like Ellen deserved better. Like he deserves something more heroic than to get beheaded and killed. So Ellen's there lying dead on the floor, and then Vin has like one final power surge. Now that Ellen's dead, she's like, that was all I was holding on for. So she like lets herself go, essentially letting herself go and like overpowering Ruin. And then you see Vin's body fall beside Ellen's on the battlefield, and then you see like a random body fall beside Ellen's and Vin's, which is Ruin. So she does kill Ruin, but then like the world is like basically ending because there's no power there anymore, like no higher being. Sazed walks onto the battlefield and he takes the power for himself, and Sazed is the hero of ages. And I realised I've been remiss in my book review. Sazed is a Terrace-man who is part of the crew. Their people are separate, so their people are meant to hold the knowledge of the world. And they were like downtrodden by the Lord Ruler even more so. And Sazed, I don't know how to say his name, he's a eunuch, so he got castrated as part of the breeding program that the Lord Ruler had. So anyway, his people are really downtrodden, but he's a bit of a rebel within his people. Like he helps overthrow the Lord Ruler, like he helps like figure out the prophecy and all that, whereas his people are just there to give knowledge to the world. I've definitely done an awful job of this book review. There's just too many characters to tell you about, do you know what I mean? Like there's just too much going on. But yeah, so Sazed is actually the hero of ages, and that's how the book ends. bookends. He brings peace back to, like, he makes the world a better place to live in. All the kind of secondary characters, the people in the crew, they all live on, but Ellen and Vin never come back. But we get a scene at the end where they're lying peacefully in a field together, and then Cesar writes like a bit in the epilogue saying like they're happy because they can be together in peace now, which fine, I'll take it. I'd rather they have got to live and be happy living, but in death that they're happy together. And then that's kind of how the book ends, like the world's restored, and like Spook, who was one of the kind of crew members, it almost makes out as though he'll maybe take power and step into power. And then yeah, that's how the book ends. And then there are former books after this set in this world, but they're meant to be like 300 years or like 1,000 years or something after the events of this series. So I don't think the characters in this series will be in the next one. But yeah, so sorry that was so chaos. I feel like I did not tell that right at all. I should have introduced Sazed from book 1, but clearly I have a one-track mind and was thinking only about Vin and thinking only about Ellen. But this is such a good fantasy series. Like, there is a bit of romance and it's slow burn and it's like teasing me for more, but it's like such pure fantasy. It's not whimsical fantasy, so there's no fairies or stuff like that, but the magic system is so cool. I will 100% be getting a Mistborn tattoo, so each metal has its own little symbol, so I'll have to take you with me when I do go and get that tattoo, although I haven't got any plans to get it right now, but I definitely will be getting it. So yeah, such a good fantasy series. This is my first Brandon Sanderson like series that I've read. It's kind of nice to read something that was literally just so different from reality, so different from just like all the romantasy books that are out there. Like, this is such a unique concept, the magic system in it, even if it is confusing, it was just really unique. So yeah, would 100% recommend the Mistborn trilogy. Let me know in the comments if you've read it. Give me more pure fantasy recommendations in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this chaotic review. I wrote my notes down and everything, but clearly there's too many characters. Like, it's a fantasy world, come on, like how am I meant to remember everything? I also finished them, like I've read like 3 books since finishing them, so I couldn't quite remember. But yeah, that's my chaotic Mistborn trilogy review. I hope you kind of enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.